Hi, and welcome to Connect at 7 on the 9th of May. My name is Dave, the curate at St James's Church, and you're welcome if you're just tuning in for the first time or if you're a regular viewer. Thank you for being here. So, this week I went to Puxton Park. Who knows that place? It's a theme park with farm animals and slides and all that kind of thing. And it's a pre-book system, so you book in and you assume that it's going to be reduced numbers because of a pre-booking system, and we get there with the children and it was mobbed. Loads of people everywhere. I know it was a bank holiday weekend, but still, I could feel my anxiety rising. I could feel like my resilience wasn't as much as it used to be. I used to enjoy going there with the kids, and now I was like, oh, it's too many people. I wonder if you're feeling like that as things gradually open up. Like, there's new life everywhere, it's sunny, things are opening up. Are we meant to feel joyful? But a lot of people are actually feeling quite left behind, quite anxious. And it's a bit of a worry. So today I want to focus on that. We're going to hear from a guy called Simon who's involved in disaster relief. And he compares our experience with big things like a tsunami and things like that. We're also going to reflect on the Bible story of Nehemiah and what he went through, and have some great worship songs and prayers. So I hope you enjoy this time. So, I'm not alone. In the BBC News this week, there was also an article about loneliness. So, a lady called Kayla, she was going to the pub, and she said there wasn't any social distancing going on. It was scary, and I could feel my anxiety starting to reignite. I enjoy being with my friends, but not all the people around me and strangers being so close. I found it really daunting and not what I've been used to. So Jackie Drake was asked to shield for long periods and even making trips for essential shopping impossible. The 58-year-old from Bradford lives on her own and is terminally ill with skin cancer. Oh, I really did feel very isolated at times, she says. I felt very lonely, especially on a night when you sit down and realise that apart from the TV, it's quiet. Jackie describes herself as tough in terms of mental health and embraced the easing of lockdown by making dinner plans with friends. However, she admits others might not be in the same position. People have got so scared that there's a lot of people struggling with mental health, she says. You can't keep yourself wrapped up in cotton wool forever, and you can't live in isolation forever. I nearly lost my life in 2016 due to cancer, but I came through. So it's a matter of living for today for me. Wow, so there are people that feel like they're back at the pub with friends. We should be enjoying this. But actually inside, they're really struggling. And I wonder how much of that chimes with you. So let's have a worship song now. This is a song called Come Alive, brackets Dry Bones, by Lauren Daigle. During this song, just think and reflect about how you're feeling. What have you lost? What have you gained during this time of lockdown? And where is God at in this moment with you?
We have lost as we look down the road where all the prodigals have walked, and one by one the enemy has whispered lies and led them off as slaves. But we know that you are God, yours is the victory. We know there is more to come that we may not yet see. So with the faith you've given us, we'll step into the valley unafraid. Yeah. As we call out to dry bones, come alive, come alive. We call out to dead hearts, come alive, come alive.
We're now going to watch a video by Simon Barrington, who works for a disaster relief agency, and it's done for us by CPAS, Leadership Network. And it's just to reflect on what we as a church or we as people are going through and are going to be going through. Thanks.
As we go into week 4 of lockdown, I just wanted to share a brief insight with you, a model which might be helpful for you as you look to the future of structure in your organisation. It's a model that comes from experience of emergency relief and response right around the world. So it's important to think of this phase that we're in as emergency response. And during that phase, what happens is that people are running hard to get basic supplies, basic needs. You really strip back to the lowest level of the Maslow hierarchy, which is how do we get food, how do we get water, how do we ensure that our health survives, how do we look after people so that we can get through this phase. And it's characterized by people running fast and hard and often by burnout, and lasts for weeks to several months. Then after that phase comes the recovery phase, and that phase can last 6 months to 12 months, depends on the nature of the crisis. And really important as we think about coronavirus to think, what are those 6 to 12 months going to look like as we come out of lockdown, as we come out of the emergency response phase? And our experience in disasters and responding to disasters around the world is that those 6 to 12 months are characterized by trauma, by grief, by a tsunami of anxiety and mental health issues, people lacking confidence to get back to normal, feeling that their world has been shaken up and down, and not really knowing what normal is. And so what we're saying to organizations is prepare for that, to churches, prepare for that, get ready for the fact that there's going to be an elongated period where you're going to need people who can come alongside those in your organization and support their well-being, to speak into their mental health and anxiety. It's going to be a time that's going to be characterized by memorial services, an outpouring of grief, all of the emotions that are pent up right now and maybe engaged in just the adrenaline that's running because we're trying to respond and pivot right now. All of that will come out, and we need to be ready for that. And then the third phase is one of reconstruction, and we expect that to happen during 2021 and on into 22 and 23. And in that reconstruction phase, we're facing up to the reality of more scarce resources in terms of finances, facing up to the reality of new sets of values, new ways of doing things. We're reimagining what the future will look like. And that reconstruction in this instance is going to be influenced by a number of factors. One is our health will be more important to us. Our relationships and our family will be more important to us. We'll have a greater level of concern for fairness and justice in our society. We'll have a greater level of concern for our key workers, and for how they're looked after and cared for, and a greater appreciation for them. And also trust will be a scarce commodity as we start to rebuild society and rebuild our relationship. So important as we think about that phase, how's your organization going to respond through those different lenses? I hope you have a great week, and I hope that model of response, recovery, and then reconstruction is helpful to you as you think about your strategy as a business and organization going forward.
So I wonder if any of Simon's videos resonated with you. So do you remember back in lockdown when things were just a bit scary? Here's this new virus, and the supermarkets were starting to run out of food. And it was just like, a bit of survival kicking in, a bit of adrenaline, how are we going to manage? And there's like limited items in the shops that you're allowed to have. It was all quite scary, and that was a time of adrenaline and like trying to figure things out. And there was the furlough scheme, people losing jobs, all this kind of kicking up in the air. church being closed, and it was a hard time. And now as we come into recovery, I wonder, sometimes it feels like as things open up, it should be done with great fanfare and we're all cheering and we're all back to normal. But what is normal now? And how much of ourselves have been changed by the experience? Because we all have done. So I like the way he takes us through, like, recovery can take 6 to 12 months. And it's a time of like exploring your trauma, remembering it, reflecting on the experiences and the grief, what you've lost, what you've gained, and what has been changed in you. And to be ready to reconstruct, because things are going to be different. Now I want to talk about the story of Nehemiah. Nehemiah was a guy who was in captivity. He'd been taken captive by the Persians, and he was the cupbearer for the king. And one day he was with the king, and the king said, "Why are you so sad?" Now that is a risky situation to be in, because he's a slave. He's not meant to bring his own issues to the king. I don't think he's meant to be sad in the king's presence. But he is, because he's heard about Jerusalem. He's heard about the walls that no longer exist. They're defenseless, they're oppressed, they're kind of just, they're hopeless there. And he is grieving, and he lets that emotion show. Now, I don't know if he does that deliberately. I don't think he does, because it's quite a risky thing to do. But the king asks, "Why are you sad?" Which is a great opening. It's like, he's then able to explore his emotions with his king. Sometimes with our emotions, it's okay. We have someone that we can share it with. But other times we just bury it and think, I just need to pretend to be normal and I'll be fine. I'll be fine at the pub, like everyone else seems to be normal. I'll be okay at this theme park I went to. Everyone else seems to be fine. But inside we're not, and it comes out in other ways. So if you can't explore it with someone, then it'll come out in like little snappy bits of anger, or like just feeling exhausted, or different emotional ways. And with Nehemiah, it comes out in front of the king. He's looking really sad, and his life could have ended at that point. But the king opens up to it. And then he gets this amazing chance to go back and rebuild. And he does it with some political muscle this time. So the king grants him the king's forest, and he grants him safe passage so all the neighbouring nations know what he's there to do. Which is incredible turnaround of situation here. So Nehemiah now has the chance to remember and to reflect on his captive experience. He could look back and think about how negative it was, how he was just a servant to the king and in captivity. And that is true. And he can also look back and maybe think about the positives, about how he survived, how all his needs were met, and the chance then to go and do something for his nation, for Jerusalem. That he was this man who suddenly has this option to do those things, because he was in captivity. And I wonder, during our lockdown spell, there's many negatives, I know, but there's also, I wonder if you could find some positives, some things that you're thankful for. It might be small things, like, actually I'm thankful for being able to explore our local area a bit more, because we were restricted to it, so you've got to be imaginative. Different things that you could be thankful for. And then, so what does it look like as we come out of that, as we reconstruct our lives, as we look about like going back to church? What can we bring with us? Things that we're thankful for, spiritual disciplines like Sue and Sarah talked about last week, about things they're thankful for during lockdown, about things they've picked up. And not just cast all aside, that was for then, and now let's move on to this new era we're in. So I hope that's been a fun reflection, thinking about Nehemiah and this hearing from Simon. And now we're going to have a time of prayer. And we're just going to pause, and we're going to ask God to show us what is in our hearts, and ask God what to do with it. And then we're going to go to our last worship song, which is No Longer Slaves to Fear. So let's pray. If you'd like to just close your eyes and open up your hands and your body, and then you can receive. So, dear God, would you help me to be aware of what is going on in my heart? Would you help me to be aware of when my pulse quickens, when my breath shortens, how I'm feeling? Would you help me to be aware of what's exhausting me and what's giving me life? Thank you for our bodies. Thank you for how you've made us. And would you help me to tune in to what you're saying to me through it? Would you help me to tune in to you, God? And as we get ready to come back to the church building, to meeting our friends again, God, would you help me to open up to new opportunities again? Give me wisdom about when to know when to step back, when to shelter, when to take my time. And give me a kick when it's time for me to dive in and see people again, do things differently. Amen. So I hope you're able to say that for yourself, and that God might answer that prayer. So let's have this final worship song. It's been so good to speak to you today, and I hope you've enjoyed this service. Have a blessed week. Bye.
You unravel me with a melody. You surround me with a song of deliverance from my enemies, till all my fears are gone. I know